Have you ever asked yourself why, despite all your effort, despite all your knowledge and planning, the life you imagine remains just beyond your reach? Why the goals that should have been inevitable remain stubbornly unattained? Perhaps you have blamed circumstances, fate, luck, or even other people. But have you ever looked at the one force that governs everything you become, everything you achieve, and everything that escapes you? That force is you. Not the you that dreams or the you that plans, but the you that acts or fails to act every single day. Success is never a matter of chance. It is the product of relentless consistency applied to the mind, the emotions, and the spirit. Without it, all knowledge, all desire, all talent becomes a whisper in the void. Consistency is not habit. Consistency is not mere repetition. It is the alignment of your will, your thoughts, and your actions with the purpose you declare in the depths of your mind. It is the conscious refusal to surrender to distraction, to delay, to doubt, to fear. Napoleon Hill taught that desire without consistency is like a spark in the wind. It ignites briefly, illuminates nothing, and dies while you look on helplessly. To master life, you must first master the rhythms of your own mind. You must compel yourself every day, without exception, to act in harmony with the purpose you have chosen. Observe your own mind. It is a battlefield of impulses, laziness, temptations, and fears. There is a voice that whispers, rest, delay, wait for the right time. And there is another voice, subtle yet commanding, that says, do it now, commit, persist. That second voice is the voice of mastery, the voice of the inner law that Napoleon Hill called the habit of success. It is consistent, it is unwavering, and it is yours to cultivate if you dare. Every thought you permit, every emotion you indulge, every hesitation you honor, either strengthens or erodes this inner voice. Inconsistent action is surrender, consistent action is power, but consistency is not comfortable, it is not glamorous. It does not reside in motivation which comes and goes like clouds across the sky. It resides in discipline, in the unseen exertion of control over yourself, in the silent command of your mental faculties. Imagine the mind as a garden. Desire is the seed. Knowledge is the water. But unless you tend the garden daily, without fail, weeds of doubt, procrastination, and fear will choke the plants before they ever bear fruit. Only the relentless hand, only the committed gardener who works even when tired, even when discouraged, even when invisible to the eyes of the world, reaps the harvest. Ask yourself, how many days have you abandoned your purpose because it required persistence beyond your comfort? How many times have you said, tomorrow I will begin, only to find that tomorrow becomes a mirror of yesterday? There is no magic in tomorrow. There is only the force you summon today consistently against your own weaknesses. Napoleon Hill did not promise the lazy, the distracted, or the inconsistent a path to riches or fulfillment. He promised mastery to those who persist in the application of law that governs thought, desire, decision, and action. And the first of these laws is consistency, not as an external ritual, but as an internal demand. Consistency demands sacrifice. It demands the subordination of fleeting pleasures to the imperative of purpose. It demands courage, for courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Fear, indecision, doubt, and laziness are not mere obstacles. They are habitual enemies that will seize your mind whenever vigilance falters. The moment you allow hesitation to infiltrate your will, the momentum of success begins to slip. Yet each act of consistent, deliberate effort is a declaration to the universe, a statement that you are not subject to circumstance, that your destiny is forged by the firmness of your own hand, the clarity of your own mind, and the intensity of your own desire. Napoleon Hill described success not as an event, but as a state of being, and that state is reached only through repeated, disciplined action aligned with purpose. A man cannot achieve success. He must become success, moment by moment, day by day, in ways that often remain invisible, uncelebrated, and unrewarded by the world at first. It is the invisible accumulation of consistent effort that yields the inevitable external triumph. Without it, genius is wasted, planning is impotent, and desire burns out as smoke in the wind. The world rewards consistency before it rewards brilliance, and it punishes hesitation as surely as gravity pulls the earth downward. To act consistently is to claim power over time. Consider this: a single day of neglect does not ruin a life, but a pattern of days, weeks, months of inconsistent thought and action builds the architecture of failure. Conversely, a single act of determined, deliberate, consistent effort repeated daily can change the course of a life. The law is invisible, but it is precise, it is indifferent, it is absolute, and it waits for no one. Your compliance or your neglect determines everything. You must also recognize the internal resistance that will rise to challenge you. The mind is cunning. It will offer rationalizations, excuses, and distractions. It will whisper, "You have done enough for today. Rest. Reward yourself. Wait." This is the voice of inertia. To overcome it, you must cultivate an inner discipline that is stronger than comfort, stronger than emotion, stronger than the pull of short-term satisfaction. This is where the imagination, guided by desire and fueled by faith, becomes a weapon. You visualize the life you will live, the triumphs you will achieve, and you allow that vision to command your consistent action, even when every part of your body and mind resists. Faith, Hill argued, is the bridge between desire and its manifestation, but faith alone, without consistency, is impotent. The most powerful belief is rendered useless if it is not reinforced through persistent, disciplined, repeated action. Autosuggestion, the conscious repetition of affirming thoughts, becomes effective only when applied consistently. The mind obeys repetition. It molds itself according to the patterns you establish. Therefore, each day you act with purpose, each day you refuse to yield to distraction, each day you honor your inner law, you are constructing the internal architecture of your destiny. And here is the subtle yet devastating truth. You cannot outsource consistency. You cannot delegate it to a coach, a friend, a mentor, or a system. The inner law of persistence is sovereign. It answers only to you. The invisible mental forces that shape your life respond to the habits you cultivate within yourself. If you act sporadically, your results will be sporadic. If you act relentlessly, your results become inevitable. Consistency is the engine and desire is the fuel. Without one, the other is wasted. Without both, nothing of substance manifests in the world. So I ask you again, with relentless seriousness, with no room for evasion, are you willing to command your own mind to dominate your impulses, to act with unwavering consistency every day, regardless of circumstances, comfort, or fear? Are you willing to sacrifice temporary pleasure for permanent victory? Are you ready to cease hoping for luck or timing, and instead rely on the internal, invisible, absolute laws that govern success? Because the moment you answer yes internally, the universe will begin to recognize your command. And nothing external can withstand the force of a mind that refuses to yield, a will that refuses to falter, and a desire reinforced by unbroken, disciplined action. Consistency is the silent architect of all achievement. It is invisible, often unrecognized, yet inexorably powerful. It is the force that separates the mediocre from the extraordinary, the dreamers from the achievers, the passive observers of life from those who live it as conquerors. To master it is to master yourself. To master yourself is to master the external world. To refuse it is to remain forever subject to chance, circumstance, and the flickering whims of fleeting motivation. The path is clear. The law is immutable. The question remains unflinching. Staring into the deepest recesses of your consciousness, will you force yourself to be consistent in thought, in action, in mind, and in spirit? Or will you continue to drift, hoping for results that never arrive, while the invisible forces of success watch silently, awaiting your commitment? The choice is yours, and it is absolute. Nothing will act on your behalf. Nothing will wait for your convenience. The world does not recognize hesitation. Fortune does not bend for the irresolute. Desire does not compensate for inconsistency. Only the deliberate, relentless, uncompromising application of your will day after day shapes the life you are capable of living. Every moment you hesitate, the opportunity to align thought, emotion, and action slips away. Every day you act with unyielding consistency, the invisible currents of success converge to bring your purpose into reality. Imagine a mind consumed by a single burning desire, a desire so vivid, so relentless, that it dominates every thought, eclipses every distraction, and renders hesitation impossible. This is not mere wishing. This is not idle longing. This is the essence of what Napoleon Hill described as definiteness of purpose, fused with a fiery commitment that transforms thought into unstoppable energy. Desire, when intense enough, becomes a force of nature within you, a force that will not be denied, that will break through fear, inertia, and doubt. Yet desire alone is not sufficient. Desire must be disciplined, directed, and fortified by faith. For without faith, the strongest longing falters under pressure, and the mind collapses under the weight of uncertainty. Faith is not blind optimism. It is the certainty, cultivated and reinforced within the mind, that your actions, when aligned with purpose, will yield results. It is a quiet, unshakable conviction that the law of your own mental universe is absolute, that thought shapes reality, and that every consistent action, no matter how small or unseen, contributes to the architecture of success. Faith does not require proof from the external world. It is built within through repetition, autosuggestion, visualization, and unwavering affirmation. It is the inner engine that powers the mind, transforms desire into action, and ensures that persistence is not just occasional but habitual, relentless, and inevitable. The individual who masters desire and faith develops a mental framework that becomes impervious to the chaos of circumstance. Decisions once deferred are taken swiftly and decisively. Indecision is the silent killer of dreams. Every hesitation, every delay allows fear and doubt to infiltrate the mind, weakening resolve and sabotaging the accumulation of consistent effort. Napoleon Hill observed that successful individuals possess the rare ability to make decisions promptly and to change them slowly, if ever. They understand that the act of deciding creates momentum. It activates the invisible forces within, aligning the subconscious mind with the conscious will and turning potential into kinetic power. Persistence is the crucible in which all these forces are tested. It is not occasional effort. It is not bursts of enthusiasm. It is the daily, disciplined application of mind and action in alignment with purpose. Every day presents new obstacles, new temptations to rest, to delay, to compromise. But the persistent mind refuses to yield. It does not measure success by immediate reward, but by the integrity of its effort and the unbroken application of law. Hill emphasized that persistence is the direct result of combining desire, faith, and a clear decision with repeated action. Without one of these elements, persistence falters. With all three, it becomes a tidal force, sweeping away resistance, doubt, and fear. Fear is the ever-present adversary in this inner battle. It is subtle, pervasive, and patient. Fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. They are the unseen chains that bind mediocrity. To master fear is not to eliminate it, but to act despite it. It is to confront the voice that whispers you cannot, and to command your mind you will. The mastery of fear requires relentless self-discipline. The conscious conditioning of your mind through affirmation, visualization, and decisive action. Each act taken in the presence of fear strengthens the mind's capacity for courage, resilience, and momentum. In this way, fear is transformed from a paralyzing force into a tool, a test of the intensity of your desire and the depth of your discipline. Imagination is another silent architect of destiny. It is the faculty through which desire is shaped, strategy is conceived, and solutions to obstacles are visualized before they manifest in reality. Hill emphasized the creative imagination, the ability to see not what exists, but what could exist. Through imagination, the persistent mind conceives the path forward, adapts to challenges, and discovers opportunities hidden to those who act only on reaction. But imagination alone, unanchored by consistency, faith, and decisive action, is powerless. It becomes the playground of fantasy, the place where dreams linger but never become real. To be effective, imagination must serve the purpose of action, guided by the burning desire that ignites it and the discipline that directs it. Every day, the individual committed to success faces a test of alignment. Do your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, and your decisions serve your declared purpose? Inconsistent action is a betrayal of your own will. Fear and doubt exploit hesitation, and untrained imagination drifts into wishful thought. Only through deliberate, conscious alignment, Through the orchestration of mind, emotion, and action, does progress become inevitable. This alignment is not abstract. It is measurable in the daily choices you make, in the tasks you complete despite discomfort, in the refusal to yield to trivial distractions. It is in these invisible victories that the foundation of external success is built. Consider the force of autosuggestion, the mechanism through which thought shapes character and circumstance. Hill taught that repeated, conscious mental impressions influence the subconscious mind, embedding patterns of belief, confidence, and expectation. Every affirmation, every visualization, every consistent act of attention to your purpose strengthens this internal machinery. Inconsistent application, on the other hand, produces confusion, dilutes focus, and weakens the mind's capacity to act decisively. The law of autosuggestion, like the law of consistency, responds only to persistent, deliberate effort. It is indifferent to excuses, indifferent to circumstance, and indifferent to external validation. Decision and action are inseparable from the inner architecture of desire and faith. Indecision is paralysis. Action without alignment is wasted effort. The mind of a successful individual operates with precision, decide with clarity, act with consistency, reinforce with faith, and persist with unwavering intensity. This is not theory. This is the practical, psychological machi, a theory by which every great achievement is realized. Napoleon Hill's research revealed that men and women who mastered this triad, decision, action, and persistence, achieved results far beyond their contemporaries, not due to luck, opportunity, or innate talent, but because they had disciplined the invisible forces that govern all human endeavor. Self-discipline is the glue that binds these elements together. Without it, desire is scattered, faith is fragile, decision is wavering, and persistence collapses under pressure. Discipline is not external control, it is mastery over your own mind, emotions, and habits. It is the conscious refusal to surrender to fleeting pleasure, to laziness, to distraction. Each act of self-discipline strengthens the internal network of success, reinforcing the neural pathways of consistent aligned action. The individual who cultivates this discipline becomes invulnerable to chaos, impervious to short-term setbacks, and capable of sustaining effort long enough for the invisible currents of law to yield tangible results. Let us consider the invisible mental forces themselves. They are the accumulation of thought, emotion, belief, and action, the unseen currents that shape circumstance, opportunity, and fortune. The mind cannot escape these forces. It either harnesses them or becomes subject to them. Every thought permitted, every action taken, every decision made contributes to this invisible architecture. Consistent alignment with purpose creates a tidal wave of momentum. Inconsistency produces turbulence and drift. The forces are impartial, precise, and absolute. They operate regardless of desire for comfort, recognition, or delay. They do not negotiate. They do not forgive. They reward only the disciplined, the persistent, the decisive, and the internally consistent. Here is the psychological paradox. The world seems chaotic, unpredictable, and unyielding, yet within the mind of the disciplined individual, order, power, and inevitability emerge. What appears as external opportunity is often the reflection of internal mastery. What appears as luck is the manifestation of alignment between desire, faith, decision, and persistent action. Those who fail do so not because the world denies them, but because they have denied themselves through inconsistency, indecision, fear, and distraction. Success is internal first. External achievement is merely a mirror. Persistence, fueled by burning desire, disciplined by faith, guided by imagination, anchored in decision, and reinforced through autosuggestion, becomes an unstoppable force. Yet every day presents tests, challenges, and subtle temptations to falter. Comfort, distraction, fear, doubt, and procrastination all vie for dominance. The mind must be trained to recognize these as adversaries and to respond with deliberate, consistent effort. Momentum is fragile. It grows in the face of resistance. It strengthens through repetition, and it collapses at the first sign of negligence. The persistent mind, however, does not negotiate. It commands, it compels, it enforces action regardless of circumstance or emotion. Napoleon Hill described the synergy of these principles as the invisible law of success, a law that governs thought, belief, emotion, and action in perfect coordination. When the law is obeyed consistently, the results are inevitable. Desire transforms into reality, faith shapes circumstance, decision drives action, imagination uncovers opportunity, fear is neutralized, discipline is reinforced, and persistence becomes unstoppable. The individual who comprehends this law acts with a quiet, relentless certainty, knowing that the external world is merely a reflection of the internal machinery they have mastered. Ask yourself now, does your mind operate in alignment with these principles? Are your desires intense enough to ignite action? Is your faith sufficient to endure doubt? Are your decisions decisive and your actions consistent? Do you persist despite fear, fatigue, and distraction? Are your thoughts disciplined, your imagination directed, your emotions harnessed? For it is not talent, nor luck, nor circumstance that determines your success. It is the conscious, deliberate orchestration of these invisible forces applied relentlessly every day until victory becomes inevitable. The internal conquest must precede the external achievement. You cannot master circumstance until you master yourself. You cannot command opportunity until you command your own mind. You cannot achieve greatness without first becoming consistent, decisive, disciplined, persistent, and fearless in thought, emotion, and action. Desire without alignment is wishful thinking. Faith without persistence is fragile. Decision without discipline is wasted effort. Action without consistency is futile. Only the combination of all these forces applied relentlessly produces the inevitable manifestation of success. Every thought you entertain, every word you speak, every image you allow to dwell in your mind is shaping the architecture of your destiny. Napoleon Hill understood this with the clarity of a man who had studied both the triumphs and the failures of countless individuals. The mind does not distinguish between imagination and reality. It does not evaluate the plausibility of a thought. It obeys the commands you issue consistently, repeatedly, without pause. Autosuggestion, the deliberate conscious feeding of thought into the subconscious, is the mechanism through which desire, faith, and decision are translated into habitual mental patterns. The law is subtle, invisible, yet absolute. Repetition is its currency, consistency its power. Without daily reinforcement, the mind drifts into chaos, yielding to the passive influence of external circumstance and the whims of fleeting emotion. Consider the fear that lives within every human being. Fear is the silent predator of potential. It wears many masks: fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of rejection. These fears are not simply emotions. They are chemical, mental, and spiritual forces that seek to divert the mind from purpose. The untrained individual believes fear is external, that the world imposes it. But the truth is far more profound. Fear originates in the mind and grows in the absence of decisive action. It thrives on hesitation, nurtures doubt, and magnifies uncertainty. To conquer fear is to seize command over your own consciousness. Each deliberate act of courage, each decision made and executed in spite of fear, becomes a signal to the subconscious mind that hesitation is unacceptable, that doubt is irrelevant, that action aligned with purpose is inevitable. The subconscious mind is not passive. It is an active, ever-working force. It records every experience, every thought, every emotion, and every repetition you subject it to. It does not reason. It does not judge. It obeys. And through its obedience, it manifests in the external world the conditions, opportunities, and outcomes aligned with the dominant patterns impressed upon it. Desire, when reinforced by autosuggestion, creates a template in the subconscious, an internal map that guides thought and action toward the manifestation of that desire. Conversely, fear, doubt, and inconsistency impress a chaotic, directionless template, producing indecision, frustration, and unfulfilled potential. The law is impartial. It does not favor you for virtue or talent. It responds only to the clarity, intensity, and consistency of the impression. Every great achievement in history is a testament to the disciplined use of this force. The individual who masters autosuggestion and fear, who commands their subconscious with unwavering authority, becomes impervious to external circumstance. They create momentum where others see only obstacles. They recognize opportunity where others see chance. They persist where others surrender. Napoleon Hill described this mastery as the deliberate cultivation of mental habits, habits so ingrained, so consistent, that they operate invisibly, automatically, yet with devastating effect in the physical world. Imagine a mind untrained, wandering aimlessly, subject to every whim, every fear, every fleeting impulse. It is a mind enslaved by circumstance. Now imagine the same mind, disciplined, focused, fortified with desire, reinforced by faith, trained through repetition, directed with decision, and persistent in action. It is a mind that commands reality, that bends circumstance, that converts potential into manifestation. The difference is not luck. It is not innate talent. It is mastery of the inner forces, applied consistently and relentlessly without compromise. Consider the practical implications. When you direct your subconscious mind through autosuggestion, you are not merely repeating affirmations, you are constructing the neural pathways of habit, shaping your mental focus, and programming your will. Each repetition strengthens the conviction of your subconscious, aligning thought, belief, and action. The subconscious becomes a fertile ground for the seeds of desire. Doubt is transformed into faith. Fear is neutralized. Inertia becomes momentum. Yet this process requires absolute consistency. Skipping days, yielding to distraction, or indulging doubt dilutes the impact. The subconscious mind mirrors the dominant thought, and it cannot be coerced by occasional effort. It obeys only the patterns reinforced relentlessly. Fear mastery is equally critical. The mind cannot pursue greatness while bound by fear. Fear, unchecked, shapes decision, contaminates thought, and erodes persistence. The individual who wishes to succeed must confront fear with deliberate, conscious action. Each act of courage, no matter how small, signals to the subconscious mind that hesitation is unacceptable, that doubt is irrelevant, that purpose is paramount. Through repeated confrontation with fear, the mind rewires itself. Fear becomes a guidepost, a measure of intensity, not an obstacle. It is through this process that persistence transforms from sporadic effort into unstoppable force. But fear mastery is not merely an internal battle. It is a battlefield of vision against reality, of imagination against circumstance. Imagination is the faculty through which the mind tests, predicts, and conceives solutions to problems before they manifest externally. The imaginative faculty, disciplined by desire, faith, and decision, is an engine of creative action. It allows the individual to see beyond current limitations, to anticipate challenges, and to construct strategies invisible to those who act only reactively. Yet imagination without consistent action is fantasy. Desire without discipline is illusion. Faith without persistence is hollow. The invisible forces of success are cumulative, building upon one another with relentless precision. Neglect any, and the architecture collapses. Every decision you make, no matter how small, impresses upon the subconscious mind a pattern of behavior. The decisive individual builds a template of action, commitment, and momentum. The hesitant individual builds a template of doubt, delay, and indecision. The external world, indifferent and impartial, reflects the internal landscape. Opportunity aligns with the patterns of consistent thought and action. Challenges arise to test persistence. Setbacks occur to strengthen discipline. The universe does not reward intention alone. It responds only to internal alignment, executed through deliberate, consistent effort. Napoleon Hill emphasized that thought is the seed of reality, yet thought unguided is inert. Thought reinforced through autosuggestion becomes action. Action repeated consistently becomes habit. Habit aligned with purpose becomes character. Character tested through adversity manifests in results. This progression is invisible, subtle, and cumulative, yet it governs every human achieve. Imment, it is not optional, it is unavoidable. The conscious mind can accelerate it, but it cannot circumvent the law. Success is internal first, external second. Mastery of these invisible forces precedes mastery of circumstance. Persistence is the vehicle through which this internal mastery produces visible outcomes. Desire fuels it. Faith directs it. Decision propels it. Autosuggestion reinforces it. Imagination shapes it. Fear mastery enables it. Self-discipline sustains it. Every act of alignment, every moment of deliberate, consistent action contributes to the accumulation of invisible momentum. Every lapse, hesitation, or indulgence dilutes that momentum. The forces are impartial. They respond only to the intensity, clarity, and consistency of your internal effort. Consider now the psychological weight of this truth. Your external reality is the product of your internal patterns. If your results are inconsistent, your actions are inconsistent. If your life lacks direction, your mind lacks disciplined desire. If success eludes you, the invisible forces of law are obeying patterns you have unconsciously established. There is no luck, no magic, no external whim controlling your destiny. There is only the precise, relentless effect of your own thoughts, beliefs, and actions operating invisibly until they manifest externally. The conquest of the subconscious mind is therefore the most critical battle of all. To win it, you must saturate it with clear, intense, consistent desire. Fortify it with unshakable faith, command it through decisive action, reinforce it through autosuggestion, shape it with imagination, conquer fear through deliberate confrontation, and sustain it with relentless persistence. The invisible forces of success respond to this orchestration with absolute precision. They accumulate silently, inevitably, producing results that the untrained mind interprets as chance, opportunity, or luck. Ask yourself now, are you actively constructing the internal architecture of your success, or are you drifting under the influence of habit, fear, and indecision? Are your thoughts disciplined? Are your fears mastered? Are your desires so intense that they dominate your daily choices? Is your imagination applied to solution, strategy, and action? Are you reinforcing your subconscious mind through repetition, conviction, and consistency? The answers determine everything. The external world will mirror the internal reality you cultivate. Master the mind first. Master your destiny will follow. The path is not easy. It is not comforting. It is not glamorous. It demands vigilance, discipline, and relentless confrontation with the forces of fear, doubt, and distraction. It requires the deliberate use of imagination, the cultivation of faith, the consolidation of decision, and the persistent application of action. Yet within this struggle lies liberation. Within this mastery lies power. Within this disciplined, invisible work lies the guarantee. E of results. Success is internal before it is external. Victory is mental before it is visible. Momentum is invisible before it manifests. And the mind that comprehends and commands these laws becomes unstoppable. Self-discipline is the cornerstone of mastery, the silent enforcer of thought, desire, and action. Without it, every other principle, faith, desire, decision, imagination, persistence, loses power. Self-discipline is not imposed externally, it is cultivated internally. It is the conscious regulation of the mind, the measured command of emotions, and the deliberate control of habits. It is the ability to do what must be done, regardless of inclination, comfort, or immediate reward. The individual who possesses self-discipline is immune to the seduction of laziness, distraction, and indulgence. Every action, every thought, every moment becomes a building block in the architecture of success. Every lapse, every compromise weakens that structure, leaving it vulnerable to the invisible forces of failure that patiently wait to exploit hesitation and inconsistency. To cultivate self-discipline is to confront yourself daily. It is to observe your own impulses without judgment, and then to act contrary to those that oppose purpose. The mind, left unchecked, drifts toward comfort, ease, and avoidance. Emotions, if unregulated, dictate behavior. Fear, laziness, and desire for immediate gratification derail progress. The disciplined individual recognizes this, names it, and AC. TS in opposition. Through repetition, the mind is trained. Habits of strength replace impulses of weakness. Character is fortified, and the internal alignment between thought, desire, and action grows unassailable. Every small act of self-discipline accumulates, creating momentum, reinforcing faith, sharpening decision-making, and fortifying persistence. Decision-making under pressure is an extension of this discipline. The indecisive mind is a fertile ground for fear, doubt, and inaction. The decisive mind, by contrast, harnesses clarity, aligns with purpose, and acts without hesitation. Napoleon Hill observed that successful individuals possess the rare ability to make decisions promptly and firmly. They understand that delay is a subtle form of surrender. Each moment spent vacillating allows the forces of doubt and fear to infiltrate the mind, undermining resolve and slowing momentum. Decision, when informed by purpose and desire, reinforced by faith and discipline through self-control, becomes a catalyst for action, a mechanism through which internal mastery transforms into external result. Consistency and persistence intersect with self-discipline to produce unstoppable momentum. The world rewards repetition of aligned action more than brilliance of thought. Desire and imagination can inspire, but without consistent, disciplined effort, they dissipate like smoke in the wind. Persistence is the visible expression of internal alignment. It is not momentary courage, nor is it occasional exertion. It is the daily, relentless application of thought, faith, decision, and action, regardless of obstacles, fatigue, or resistance. Every setback, every difficulty, every failure becomes a measure of commitment, a test of internal mastery. The persistent individual endures, adapts, and grows stronger, while the inconsistent yield to circumstance and remain forever trapped in mediocrity. Imagination, disciplined and directed, is the architect of problem-solving and opportunity recognition. The individual who has mastered desire, faith, and decision can envision solutions that others cannot see. They anticipate challenges before they arise and design strategies invisible to reactive minds. Imagination, when reinforced through autosuggestion and disciplined thought, becomes the engine of innovation, yet it is powerless if not paired with action. The mind alone cannot produce results. It must guide, direct, and shape effort. Thought, unaccompanied by disciplined action, remains fantasy. Desire, unreinforced by discipline and persistence, fades. Faith, untested by decision and action, collapses. The invisible laws of success demand integrated application, not partial understanding. The transformation of internal mastery into external results is subtle yet absolute. The mind, aligned with purpose and discipline through consistent application of principle, begins to shape circumstance, attract opportunity, and influence others. External reality becomes a reflection of internal architecture. Those who have mastered their own thoughts, emotions, and habits command their environment with quiet precision. Obstacles no longer paralyze, they provoke action. Setbacks no longer discourage, they instruct. Circumstances do not dictate outcomes, they are navigated with clarity and control. Success becomes inevitable because it is no longer dependent on chance. It is a direct manifestation of the internal order that has been cultivated deliberately, consistently, and persistently. Fear, once a barrier, now becomes a compass. The challenges that once paralyzed the mind now indicate the areas where growth and mastery are required. Each confrontation with fear reinforces discipline, strengthens faith, and fortifies decision-making. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the calculated exercise of will in spite of fear. The individual who consistently acts despite fear signals to the subconscious mind that hesitation is unacceptable, that indecision is irrelevant, and that purpose is paramount. Through repeated confrontation, fear is transmuted into fuel, and obstacles are transformed into accelerants for momentum. The invisible forces shaping destiny respond to this internal mastery with absolute precision. The subconscious mind, programmed through repeated, consistent, deliberate thought, directs attention, decision, and energy toward opportunities aligned with purpose. Luck is a byproduct of alignment, not a cause. Opportunity is a tar. Acted to those whose internal currents resonate with action, clarity, and faith. Circumstance becomes malleable to the disciplined, persistent, and decisive mind. The laws are impartial, indifferent, and unyielding. Compliance is voluntary, but consequence is absolute. Every external result is the manifestation of accumulated internal alignment. Desire without action is impotent. Faith without discipline is fragile. Decision without consistency is wasted. Action without direction is chaos. The integration of all principles, desire, faith, decision, imagination, autosuggestion, fear mastery, self-discipline, and persistence, produces momentum that no external force can resist. This is the psychological machinery of success, invisible, cumulative, and inexorably precise. You must understand deeply and irrevocably that external achievement is never the starting point. It is the result of internal conquest, the manifestation of invisible law. The individual who seeks recognition, reward, or fortune without first commanding their own mind will encounter frustration, inconsistency, and failure. The internal order precedes external success. Discipline, decision, and consistent action are the currency of this order. Without them, every effort is diluted, every plan is compromised, and every desire remains unrealized. The price of greatness is the relentless application of principle. There is no shortcut, no external formula, no external validation that substitutes for internal mass. Terry, the mind must be trained daily with deliberate conscious effort. Habits of thought, emotion, and action must be cultivated, tested, and reinforced. Fear must be confronted, desire must be intensified, faith must be strengthened, and decision must be exercised without hesitation. Persistence must become instinctive, and discipline must govern every moment. Only then does the invisible architecture of success solidify, producing external results with unerring precision. Napoleon Hill taught that the mind obeys the dominant thoughts impressed upon it, amplified by repetition and reinforced by action. The disciplined mind, aligned with desire, guided by imagination, fortified by faith, and persistent in execution, becomes a magnet for opportunity, a generator of momentum and a master of circumstance. The undisciplined mind, inconsistent and reactive, becomes a prisoner of fear, indecision, and circumstance. The contrast is absolute, measurable, and irrevocable. Your internal patterns produce inevitable outcomes. Master them and success follows. Neglect them and frustration becomes permanent. Ask yourself now, are your thoughts disciplined, your desires intense, your decisions decisive, your actions consistent, your fear mastered, your faith unshakable, your persistence relentless? Are you consciously constructing the internal machinery that produces external results? Or are you drifting under the influence of habit, distraction, and fear, hoping for achievement that never arrives? The answers determine everything. Internal mastery is not optional. It is the prerequisite for every visible victory. External reality reflects your inner command. Only by relentless alignment of thought, emotion, and action can you produce results that are inevitable, unstoppable, and irreversible. The human mind is a crucible of potential, a furnace where thought, desire, and action converge to forge destiny. Within it resides a power far greater than any external circumstance, any fleeting opportunity, any measure of luck. This power is the creative imagination, the faculty through which the unseen is conceived, the impossible is envisioned, and the invisible forces of the universe are commanded. Napoleon Hill emphasized that imagination, disciplined and focused, is the workshop of the subconscious mind. It translates desire into mental blueprints, aligns faith with purpose, and conceives solutions to obstacles before they manifest externally. Yet imagination alone, unanchored by persistence, discipline, and consistent action, remains abstract, ethereal, impotent. It must be paired with the relentless machinery of internal mastery to produce tangible results. Every thought impressed upon the mind through autosuggestion, every act of decisive action, every confrontation with fear strengthens this mental architecture. The subconscious mind begins to act as a silent ally, orchestrating circumstances, directing attention, and influencing choices in alignment. Why? Your dominant patterns. It is not passive, it is not negotiable. It is the invisible engineer of your destiny, responding precisely to the impressions and habits impressed upon it. Those who understand and command this force leverage it consciously, while the untrained drift helplessly, reacting to circumstance, swept along by fear, indecision, and distraction. Consider the force of momentum. It is born of consistent, disciplined action, reinforced by desire and faith, guided by imagination, and amplified by decision and persistence. Momentum, once established, becomes a self-sustaining engine of achievement. Obstacles encountered along the way no longer halt progress. They become tests, training grounds, and accelerators. The individual who has mastered momentum does not merely act. They compel the external world to respond. Opportunity aligns, challenges are mitigated, and the path forward, though arduous, becomes navigable with clarity and precision. Yet momentum is fragile. Inconsistency, hesitation, and compromise erode it. Only relentless daily reinforcement preserves its force and ensures the inevitable manifestation of purpose. The law of the invisible forces is absolute. Your thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and actions accumulate silently, shaping circumstance with precision. External results are a reflection of this internal alignment. Desire without reinforcement produces frustration. Faith without action produces illusion. Decision without persistence produces vacillation. Action without discipline produces chaos. Only the integrated application of these principles produces the consistent, cumulative force necessary to bend reality toward your will. The mind obeys these laws faithfully, impartially, and without regard for comfort or convenience. Your responsibility is to command it. Nothing external will compensate for negligence. Creative imagination is also the wellspring of problem solving. The challenges that appear insurmountable to the reactive mind are, to the disciplined, imaginative mind, opportunities to manifest skill, insight, and foresight. Obstacles do not merely test, they reveal the depth of alignment between desire, discipline, and internal law. Every difficulty, every setback, every resistance encountered becomes a catalyst for internal refinement. Those who persist refine their thoughts, adjust their plans, strengthen their discipline, and deepen their mastery. The external world becomes a mirror, reflecting the precision and intensity of the internal architecture, cultivated through persistent effort. The invisible mental forces that govern success respond to intensity of thought, clarity of purpose, and consistency of action. Napoleon Hill emphasized that the mind cannot be coerced, it must be guided, impressed, and reinforced. Autosuggestion, when applied consistently, programs the subconscious to anticipate opportunity, generate solutions, and mobilize persistence. Faith, reinforced by repeated success in all endeavors, solidifies conviction and sustains courage. Decision, exercised daily, shapes habit, directs momentum, and strengthens character. Persistence, maintained without compromise, transforms internal mastery into external inevitability. All are elements of a single integrated system, the internal machinery of achievement, functioning silently, invisibly, yet with devastating efficacy. Consider now the subtle interplay of fear and desire. Fear, if left unchecked, paralyzes the mind, fragments thought, and undermines effort. Desire, if unrefined, dissipates energy and produces aimless action. When the mind has mastered both, fear becomes a signal of intensity, and desire becomes a force that commands action despite resistance. The subconscious mind, responsive to repeated, deliberate mental impressions, begins to anticipate challenges, identify opportunities, and mobilize resources. The individual who has cultivated this internal discipline no longer waits for luck or circumstance. They create momentum that compels results. The world may resist, delay, or obstruct, but the invisible law of internal alignment operates with precision, ensuring eventual manifestation of purpose. Persistence, more than effort, is the measure of internal mastery. It is not occasional exertion, but sustained, deliberate, unyielding action aligned with desire and disciplined by principle. Each act of persistence strengthens the mind, conditions the subconscious, and accumulates momentum. Setbacks become data. Failures become instruction. Obstacles become training grounds. The persistent mind interprets challenge as an ally rather than an enemy, leveraging adversity to refine strategy, reinforce discipline, and intensify desire. In this way, persistence transforms internal law into external achievement, producing results that appear inevitable, even miraculous, to the untrained observer. The mastery of imagination, desire, faith, discipline, decision, and persistence produces an internal architecture that is self-reinforcing. Each principle amplifies the others. Thought impressed upon the subconscious generates confidence, insight, and clarity. Decision exercised decisively produces habit and momentum. Faith strengthened by repeated effort produces courage, endurance, and resilience. Imagination disciplined by purpose produces strategy, foresight, and innovation. Persistence applied relentlessly converts internal alignment into external manifestation. The result is not accidental. It is precise, cumulative, and inevitable. The laws of success operate in exact proportion to internal mastery, responding to consistency, intensity, and clarity. Ask yourself, are your thoughts deliberate or scattered? Are your desires intense or tepid? Are your actions consistent or sporadic? Is your imagination disciplined or wandering? Are your fears mastered or permitted to dictate behavior? Is your faith unshakable and your persistence unrelenting? The answers determine the velocity of momentum, the clarity of opportunity, and the inevitability of results. Internal mastery governs external reality. Neglect it, and circumstance controls you. Cultivate it, and circumstance bends to your will. The ultimate reality is simple, yet profound. Internal mastery is not optional. It is the prerequisite for all achievement. External results are reflections of the forces you cultivate within. Every thought, every habit, every repetition, every act of discipline shapes the invisible currents that ultimately manifest as success. Those who grasp this law understand that life is not a sequence of random events, but a precise reflection of mental order, aligned desire, disciplined action, and persistent effort. Those who ignore it remain at the mercy of circumstance, drifting through life, victims of chance, frustration, and inconsistency. In this framework, greatness is not a product of talent, opportunity, or luck. It is the inevitable outcome of invisible law, applied consistently, deliberately, and relentlessly. Desire, imagination, faith, decision, self-discipline, persistence, and fear mastery operate as an integrated system. Each reinforce ease the other, building cumulative momentum that cannot be resisted. External achievement, recognition, and fortune are mere reflections of internal mastery. The individual who comprehends this law acts with quiet, unshakable certainty. They anticipate, they plan, they persist, they create. Their results are inevitable because they operate in harmony with forces that govern success at its deepest, most psychological level. The question now is whether you will commit to this mastery. Will you harness your imagination with disciplined thought? Will you reinforce desire with unwavering faith? Will you act decisively, persist relentlessly, and confront fear without hesitation? Will you construct the internal architecture that produces results that are precise, cumulative, and unstoppable? The choice is not theoretical. It is immediate. It is absolute. Every day you delay, the invisible forces of law accumulate elsewhere, reinforcing momentum you fail to command. Every day you act with alignment. The currents of success accelerate, converging with unerring precision toward inevitable manifestation. Now, the moment arrives for clarity, for decision, for unflinching confrontation with the reality of your own mind. The internal battle you have been exploring is not abstract, philosophical, or optional. It is the foundation of everything you will ever achieve or fail to achieve. The forces that shape your destiny, desire, faith, decision, imagination, self-discipline, persistence, and fear mastery have been quietly waiting for your recognition, for your command, for your unwavering commitment. They are impartial, indifferent, and absolute. The question now is whether you will rise to meet them or continue to surrender day by day, moment by moment, to hesitation, doubt, and inconsistency. The universe does not act for your convenience. It does not yield to hope, prayer, or wishful thinking. It responds only to mastery, internal mastery, relentless, unflinching, precise. Every thought you permit, every desire you cultivate, every action you take becomes a force either building the momentum of your life or eroding it. Your mind is the battlefield, your will is the weapon, and consistency is the path to victory. External achievement is merely a mirror reflecting the invisible work you perform within. The external world is impartial, and it will reward only that which you internally command. Understand this: comfort, avoidance, procrastination, and fear are the enemies of your progress. They are subtle, seductive, and patient, waiting for every moment of weakness to erode your resolve. The individual who succumbs to these forces drifts through life, believing in luck, blaming circumstance, and wondering why greatness eludes them. The individual who masters them, however, harnesses an invisible power, a momentum, a force that makes achievement inevitable. Every act of consistent thought, deliberate action, decisive choice, and persistent effort becomes a buoy, block in the unstoppable architecture of success. You have learned that desire is the ignition, that faith is the engine, that decision is the steering, that imagination is the architect, that discipline is the structure, that persistence is the fuel, and that fear mastery is the guidance system. These are not concepts, they are the precise mechanical laws that govern every act of achievement. They operate invisibly, silently, and consistently. They will reward only those who apply them relentlessly, without compromise, without excuse, and without hesitation. To ignore them is to choose failure. To embrace them is to guarantee success. There is no middle ground. Now is the time to force yourself into consistency, to command your thoughts, to direct your emotions, to act decisively, to persist relentlessly, to confront fear, and to live with unwavering purpose. There is no other way. The external world cannot be relied upon to push you forward. Opportunity will not wait for indecision. Fortune will not pause for hesitation. Every day you delay, the currents of momentum flow elsewhere. Every day you act with alignment, they converge with precision, strength, and inevitability toward the manifestation of your purpose. Understand that the law is absolute. Internal mastery precedes external achievement. External reward is the reflection, the mirror of internal command. If your life has been inconsistent, unfulfilled, or disappointing, it is because you have permitted or internal forces to drift, to be scattered, to be overwhelmed by fear and hesitation. Nothing external can correct internal negligence. The mind, disciplined or undisciplined, governs everything. Desire unreinforced by consistent action produces nothing. Faith untested by discipline collapses. Decision unexecuted yields vacillation. Imagination without action remains fantasy. Persistence without intensity fails. Self-discipline unpracticed invites chaos. Fear unmastered becomes domination. This is why the choice you make now is irrevocable: to command your mind, to harness internal forces, and to act with relentless, uncompromising consistency, or to surrender to mediocrity, delay, and the illusion of hope. The consequences are absolute. Every thought, every word, every action you take from this moment forward is either building the unstoppable architecture of your success or reinforcing the patterns of your failure. There is no pause, no vacation, no postponement that will spare you the consequences of internal mastery or neglect. You must act decisively. You must commit fully. You must embrace the discipline of consistent thought and action every single day. You must confront fear with courage, reinforce desire with faith, direct imagination toward purpose, make every decision with clarity, and persist until the momentum of your internal law becomes irresistible, unstoppable, and inevitable. External results are simply the reflection of what you now command internally. Do not achieve greatness by waiting, by hoping, or by wishing. You achieve it by mastery of yourself through relentless application of the invisible laws that govern thought, belief, emotion, and action. Do not wait for tomorrow is the refuge of the indecisive, the frightened, and the weak. Do not rely on luck, chance, or circumstance. They are irrelevant to those who have mastered themselves. Force yourself into alignment, into discipline, into relentless daily action. Command your mind with the authority of intention. Direct your thoughts with precision. Reinforce your belief with persistence. Engage imagination with purpose. Harness fear as a guide, not a barrier. Act decisively, consistently, and without hesitation. The choice is absolute, and the consequences are unavoidable. Mediocrity is the result of internal compromise. Failure is the product of hesitation and inconsistency. Success, greatness, and the life you are capable of commanding are the inevitable result of internal mastery, deliberate alignment, and relentless, unyielding action. The external world does not negotiate. It does not accommodate. It mirrors the invisible architecture you cultivate within. Now, in this moment, commit fully. Take total responsibility. Command your mind. Align your desires, faith, decisions, imagination, discipline, persistence, and fear mastery. From this instant forward, act as the architect of your destiny, the commander of invisible forces, the master of your own life. Do not defer, do not hesitate, do not falter. Everything falls into place for those who enforce consistency, who act decisively, who persist relentlessly, and who refuse to yield to fear, distraction, or delay. The time is now. The choice is yours. The responsibility is absolute. Command your life, command your destiny, become the force that bends circumstance, shapes opportunity, and manifests greatness. There is no other path, there is no other choice. Everything falls into place, but only if you force yourself to be consistent every day, without exception, without compromise, and with unflinching mastery of your own mind.